Uh, Hello, everybody. So here we are with part two. Just to answer a question about my opinion. Thank you very much for the question. The question was, what do I think of companies bonding employees? Uh, That's a very interesting question, and a couple of comments. First is in some countries, it's actually illegal. And if you give that training to a person, it's not legal to try and recuperate the money that you've spent on that training. That's the first comment. But that's not the case in every country. So in some countries, let's say it is a legal practice. Is it a good practice? Well, actually, it's not. It gives all the wrong messages because it says to an individual, I recognize that providing training for you will be advantageous. However, I'm only going to do it on condition that you spend some years with me, and I'm obliging you to spend time with me to compensate for the training. It's not a win-win situation because you have created an unbalanced environment where on the surface, the employee has gone along with you, but below the surface, the employee feels trapped. They want to do the training, but they don't want to be obliged to stay with you. You're obliging them to stay with you if they do the training. So it leaves, uh, let's say, an unpleasant taste in the whole story. Uh, to then, if an employee leaves, to pursue the employee through the courts to get money back is just quite simply horrible. It's horrible because it says because you can't, do that without the entire workforce knowing that that's what you're doing, that you're bullying employees that have left you and said, you signed an agreement, therefore you must pay this money back. Maybe the employee doesn't have any money at all. Maybe they've got to, it's a horrible, horrible situation. And you're saying to the rest of the workforce, we as employers do not care about you. We were talking about emotional intelligence before. It's a zero on the emotional intelligence level. It, it's not clever, and I would never ever recommend companies to do that. Uh, Minimize the cost of the training, of course. Find more effective ways to do that training, absolutely. But to then try and make the employee pay for it in some way or be bonded, it's a really, really bad move. But anyway, it is what it is, and I believe that employees will turn down training because they don't want to be bonded. So the company misses the opportunity to improve the competence of the training. Who suffers? Well, not the employee. The employee is the passenger on the train, for example. So the passenger's not going to suffer. Who suffers is the owner of the train. And there you go. This is my thoughts on this. Okay, let's carry on. So we were talking about emotional intelligence. Understanding and leveraging emotional intelligence can significantly enhance one's ability to connect with others. So again, as we keep saying, we can learn these behaviors. We can understand these behaviors. And actually, something that was not around during my, let's say, formative years is the platform of YouTube. There is so much information available on YouTube, which is super beneficial and can help you on your learning journey in respect of leadership aspirations. Okay, let's carry on. Right. Emotional intelligence consists of several components. Self-awareness, recognizing your emotions, the impact they have on others. Being able to control yourself. Being motivated. And again, we haven't spoken about motivation, but motivation is a major, major part of our company story. We need people to be motivated, to be happy to work, to be proud of the company, proud of the business, proud of the product. And we have, as the leadership team, we have to strive to do that, to make it happen. We spoke about the need for empathy, genuine empathy. I qualified it. We need to manage our relationships, to build networks, and to communicate effectively. And so we've got 10 attributes here of aviation leadership: self-regulation, empathy, motivation, social skills, conflict management. So leaders with a high emotional intelligence can manage conflicts effectively by remaining neutral, understanding both sides, and facilitating resolution. So this is again developing your negotiation skills. Using communication to de-escalate tension, promote mutual understanding, and find win-win solutions. In any given situation where there is conflict, people feel a degree of outrage. They are unhappy because of circumstances, because of something that has happened. We've got to unpack it. We've got to understand it, and we've got to, again, just like we deal and face our problems, we've got to understand how we're going to address it in the most effective way. And as it's just said, it's not about choosing sides. It's about finding the best solution that we can. In some cases, the situations resolve themselves. In other cases, ultimately, you have to make a decision which is not going to be acceptable to both sides. It happens. In which case, what should happen is the decision that's taken should, in the light of future balance considerations, if people turn around and say, well, that was not a good decision for so-and-so, however, the company made a fair decision, and the outcome was not unexpected, not unreasonable. And if you can do that, then you're probably in the best place. Transparency. We need to ensure transparent communication fosters trust and credibility. What does that mean? Well, information should be shared as widely as possible. Sometimes it's essential because it's part of running the business process. But it also lets people understand the rationale of decisions, why decisions were made, and enables an opportunity for them to support the decisions. We also need to use positive communication to build resilience, to let's say, and inspire confidence, helping our teams to understand that what they're doing is correct, and where there are, let's say, opportunities to improve, that we can address these also transparently, and that we can build on it with a, let's say, improvement in process, procedures, policy, and so on. Again, we spoke about this before, but culturally aware leaders tailor communication to different cultural context, making sure that we ensure inclusivity and mutual respect. Let's talk some more about handling challenges. We've spoken about visionary thinking there. Nothing new there. Spoken about that. Nothing new there. Okay. What advice do you have for new aviation leaders starting their careers? So the first thing to say, people who are starting a career now in 2024, 2025, could be aged, let's say, around 25 years old. They're going to be working for the next 25 to 35 years. And that is an amazing period of time. And the changes that we are going to see in the next 25 to 35 years, I think are going to be significant in many different areas. AI, and the AI story is an interesting one. Again, I go back quite some decades. So round about 1995 to 1998, the internet was just starting. And okay, it'd been around for a long time, but the internet that we know today was just really getting off the ground. And so many companies jumped on the internet, and they were going to be the next giants, and everybody invested in these companies. And I would think more than 90%, you could do some research to prove this, but more than 90% of the companies that were engaged in this, let's say, activity of growing a business within the internet don't exist now. I think we're going to see exactly the same thing with AI. A few of the AI giants will maintain, but many of the companies, they will not succeed. And it was interesting because I'll give you a real life example. If you visit Sofema Online, I hope you have, please do visit it. And we have a chatbot, and you'll see the chatbot. It's very unobtrusive. It's sitting there at the bottom right. It's not an ordinary chatbot. It's probably one of the most intuitive AI chatbots that you will find. You can introduce yourself in any language. If you speak Arabic, you can write in Arabic and you can introduce yourself to our chatbot, or French, or Spanish, or any other language, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Malay, any language. You can talk to our chatbot and you can ask for guidance and advice. And if you haven't done it, please try it. It's an amazing tool. Now then, here's the reason I'm sharing this with you. Not because I want you to visit the chatbot, but I welcome you to visit the chatbot. But we wanted a chatbot for our operation. We didn't envisage a multilingual chatbot. We just wanted it to work in the English language, which of course is the language of aviation and This is the language we're talking to you now, of course. So I went and I sourced a company, and they were going to provide me with a chatbot framework, which we then had to load all our data, and we had to take huge responsibility, and they were going to do it for 25,000 euros for their fee. Thank you very much. So what do we pay for our chatbot? We pay $99 each 1 month for our chatbot. So there's an example of organizations that understand it's far better to have 1,000 customers paying you $99 every month than try and chase individual customers for large amounts of money for something that could be resold, if you know what I mean. So it was an interesting story for me to understand. So again, what we're talking about is how it's going to change. I started in aviation. Large transatlantic aircraft had 5 people in the flight deck. They had 2 pilots, they had a flight engineer, they had a radio officer, and they had a navigator. 5 people in the flight deck. Quickly, the navigator was replaced by inertial navigation. So installed in the aircraft was a triple, and a company called Litton was a major player in inertial navigation. Another company called Carousel also provided inertial navigation. And basically that system took away the pilot. So the pilot went. The navigator was taken from the aircraft. And then in 1984, we saw another change with the introduction of, it came actually with Boeing 75767s were a 2-man flight deck. Also, Airbus A310 was a 2-man flight deck. The A300 was a 3-man flight deck. By this time, of course, we had also dispensed with the radio operator. We didn't need a radio operator to work the radios. They were quite straightforward for any of the flight crew members. So 3-man flight deck. Now we're a 2-man flight deck. Where are we going with this? Well, if you have an aircraft that's flying from, say, Australia to New York, it's about a 20-hour flight. Then you're going to have double flight crew. So you're going to have 4 flight crew. So I can envisage in the future that aircraft will have a single pilot. That transatlantic aircraft will maybe have 2 pilots, but only 1 pilot active at one time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. In the future, could you see aircraft without pilots? It's possible. It depends on the consumer. What I can say is this, that based on the information that we know, that 8 out of 10 accidents are caused by humans, and 2 out of 10 accidents are caused by the machine or technology. If you took the pilots out of the flight deck, the accidents will reduce. It's public perception. So that's going to be an interesting journey to see how that develops. More and more, let's say, of our activities, our normal activities will be taken over by AI. We go to a doctor, we go to hospital. AI is already being able to deal with our medical questions in a, let's say, a superior way to a general practitioner, because the AI can deal with specifics. Same with legal profession. So many of our, let's say, routine inactions or activities on a daily basis will change. So if I was 25 now, looking at a career in aviation that's going to last 25 to 35 years, I would be positioning myself in a role that cannot be taken over by AI. So that's an interesting thought, something to think about. Safety, again, top priority in every decision you make. If you let go of safety, it will come back and it will, in some way, cause you disconnect, cause you harm in some way, or cause your business harm in some way. So keep talking about safety, but definitely knowing the regulations and knowing how you can use the regulations in a way that lets you manage your business to the way you want. So instead of, let's say, making sure I comply with the regulations, I understand the regulations, I accept compliance as a fundamental. It's a baseline. And just to share something with you, I want you to consider a company. Any company, doesn't matter if it's an operator or a maintainer or any other aviation company, which holds regulatory approval. Now, understand who is responsible to comply with the regulation. Yes, the organization is. Yes, ultimately the accountable manager is. But in each business area, the business owner or the nominated person, if you like, is ultimately responsible for their business area. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if they're following the regulations, then there shouldn't be any findings. So how can the regulatory authority come into your organization and give you a list of 20 or 30 or 40 findings, discrepancies, which require corrective action? How can that possibly happen? The next thing to say is, if that happens, and it does, I absolutely promise you, and it does, what is happening with your compliance system, your compliance manager? How is it that a business area has got so many deficiencies, but your compliance manager has not identified them? So that is a systemic and dysfunctional behavior of your internal compliance system. But it's also a systemic and dysfunctional failure of the business oversight by the manager. So the takeaway from this is, when you're audited by the regulatory authority, you should never have more than a very, very small number of issues, because the responsibilities sits with the business area and the oversight sits with the compliance manager. Staying with the business area, what is it in terms of effectiveness? We're trying to build a business. We're trying to maximize our opportunities, and you can't even comply with the regulations. So how many business area managers, how many post holders are completely inadequate for the role that they're performing? Because there is nothing more damaging for a business than weak leadership within business areas. This is one of the reasons why, again, so many businesses suffer, and other businesses like my 3 low cost I use as an example, why they are thriving is because they require their leadership team and their business managers, they require them to be able to comply with all their obligations, if you like, in terms of competency. Okay, let's continue. Develop strong emotional intelligence. It's crucial for effective leadership. We've said that a few times. So I'm hoping that that will start to resonate with you, and you will start to, as an aspiring leader, go to my favorite YouTube, for example, and put in, how can I develop emotional intelligence? And you will get as many different videos as you can imagine. Find some that work for you and listen to them. It's not expensive to have a membership for YouTube and to be able to download these videos to look at them again. In any event, you can still, there's programs that you can download the videos that you and build up your own personal portfolio related to your leadership journey. And that's part of the next comment that we make about embracing continuous learning. Regularly. I can't say regularly. I just did. Update your knowledge on industry trends, safety standards, and leadership techniques. Enroll in courses, attend seminars. And again, this doesn't have to cost you the earth. There is many things that you can do. For example, you're attending this workshop. It costs nothing for you. So there is always opportunity to learn at an acceptable budget. Build a collaborative culture. Not just about directing others, it's about collaboration and teamwork. Again, we've said this already. Developing problem-solving skills. So it's often unpredictable. We know this. Leaders need strong problem-solving skills. Your ability to solve problems quickly and efficiently will set you apart. Develop critical thinking and decision-making abilities. And that's one of the areas, along with emotional intelligence, where you've got to take personal control of yourself. And it's another one that you can put into YouTube. How can I develop critical thinking and decision-making abilities? And work on this, because being able to resolve challenges that you face without being stressed or without it leading to unnecessary stress is something that is going to stand you instead over the next decades of your career. Next one, let's talk about financial management. Understanding financial management is a key to making informed decisions. So not to go into, let's say, too deep in financial management, but you should have, within a business area, you should have a knowledge of what you're doing costs the business and how much you save the business if you change the way you're doing something. Because without that, how can you make an informed decision relating to return on investment? So it's important that you're able to have a basic understanding of the value of the services that you're giving to the business, how they can be optimized, and where you can go with this. So budgeting and financial planning is going to benefit you, but I'm not trying to turn you into accountants. I'm trying to turn you into people who have a savvy understanding and are able to, let's say, make considerations based on a financial knowledge. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about, how can I take my negotiating skills to the next level? So what do we mean? So everything that we've spoken about so far is part of our, let's say, communication strategy. So emotional intelligence, being able to collaborate, being able to work with teams, etc., etc. Strong relationships, employing data-driven arguments. What does that mean? Well, if you say, I think we should do this because it's a good idea, doesn't carry as much weight as I've been looking at how much we've spent in the last 3 months on XYZ. And if we change to this procedure, we can make a 15 or 20% saving based on the following rationale. Now, that's a super strong argument. And that's the point in trying to negotiate your point of view, particularly if you're trying to present to managers and leaders above you and you're trying to win your argument. You're only going to win, if you do win, if you can provide a strong business case for your argument. And even then, it depends on the willingness and ability of the leadership team to listen to you and to engage with your proposal and understand it. And if it genuinely leads to, let's say, an improved return on investment, to optimize savings, then to adopt it. Because you will find people who don't want to listen to you. And one of the things that the safety management system has introduced, and as you should be aware or are aware, with safety management, one of the areas that we have to develop is called change management. So we need to have change management procedures as part of our safety management system within our core business processes. Now, why do I say that? Because when you're proposing changes, this is what we're talking about. It's change management, and it's encouraging the organization to engage with change management. They come at it from the safety point of view, but that's okay because it's part of the overall story. One of the challenges you're going to meet is related to status quo. What does that mean? It means how things are now. Leave it as it is. If it works, leave it. Don't mess with it. And you will come across, for example, practices where people have built in overtime into their routine. And they've built overtime into their routine because it generates a little bit of extra money for them. But they depend on that overtime. So if you try and optimize their business process so it reduces overtime, they're going to push back. They're going to push back quite hard. And so there's an example of the sort of challenges. There can be a lot more challenges relating to this, but you will meet these challenges and many, many more. So we need to be able to communicate effectively. We need to be able to build relationships, and we need to create mutually beneficial outcomes. I saw one company, and what they did in this situation that I just described, where they had overtime, they calculated that across the workforce, the average overtime equated to 10% of the pay. So they said, right, what we're going to do, we're going to give you a pay rise, and now we're going to give you an additional pay rise of 10%, and we're going to basically buy your overtime off you. So you only do overtime if it's necessary, but you don't get paid for it. Sorry, you don't get any additional pay for it. And that was the process. And the idea was that everybody now, because you're not working for overtime, you will strive to optimize your business process. Could it work? It can work in some environments. I'm not saying it can work in aviation, because overtime is a tool which gives you flexibility, but routine overtime is not good. Ad hoc overtime to deal with emergencies, AOGs, incidents, accidents, serves a place, serves a purpose. So I would not advocate eradicating overtime within an organization. What I would do is look very closely at working practices that provide for, let's say, automatic overtime, because it's not a good way of working. Okay, so here we're talking more about relationships. Negotiation is not just about the immediate deal, it's about building long-term relationships. One of the most essential aspects is trust. If you don't trust somebody, it's going to be very, very difficult to develop a relationship where you are feeling comfortable about surrendering to that person. So this is the challenge. So building rapport, demonstrating respect, empathy, understanding, and so we strive for a fair and favorable agreement. That does not mean you are going to win everything that you wanted, not at all. You're going to win some and you're going to lose some, with the intention of an overall win-win scenario. Emotional intelligence plays a critical role in negotiation because it lets you navigate through the dynamics in an effective way, and it also helps you to remain calm, respond empathetically, and influence the other party's emotions in a positive way. Preparation is critical to successful negotiation. Before entering a negotiation, you should have a clear understanding of your objectives, potential concessions, and the alternatives available to both parties. It's actually got an abbreviation. It's the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In aviation, where negotiations can involve complex issues such as pricing, safety standards, operational logistics, preparation is even more important. Conduct detailed research on the other party's position, understand constraints, develop a clear plan with defined goals and fallback options. So the takeaway from this is the more preparation that you do, the better you're going to be entering into a negotiation. But as with everything that we do, there is an ROI sitting behind it. If I spend a month of my management time, understanding the negotiation details to the nth degree, understanding the other party. That sounds good. But what if the revenue that we're going to achieve from this negotiation is in hundreds of euros or the low thousands of euros, and I've just spent a month to protect 1,000 or 2,000 euro? It's obvious, isn't it? It doesn't work. So, as we said very much at the beginning, being able to prioritize your own exposure becomes something that is very important. Focus on interests. What that means is trying to find out where the other party's expectations sit. Now, they might tell you straight away. They might say, I only want to pay 60% for this. You're asking for 100%. I want to pay 60%. And you're saying, well, we can't possibly accept 60%. But what will you accept? And that's the point. I play a game sometimes. Depends when I'm in a foreign country and I go to a market and I see something that's maybe interesting, and the person says to me, you like this? I say, I like it. I said, how much is it? And they say, how much you give me? I say, what is your absolute best price? And they say, I'll sell it you for 12. I say, okay, yeah, thank you very much. Whoa, wait. I'll sell it you for 11. I said, I thought I just asked you your best price. Hey, okay, 11. Okay, thank you. No, wait, I'll give it you for 10. And it's a very, very interesting game. And it's the same with negotiation. You're not going to go into a negotiation normally, because then it wouldn't be a negotiation. But you're not going to go into a negotiation saying that we're trying to sell it for 100, but in actual fact, we will let it go for 80. And the other guy says, well, that's 80 is the maximum that we're prepared to pay. So that's great. Because, first of all, I don't necessarily want to sell it for 80 if I can get 85. And maybe if I can push you, you will come to 85. So this is what the negotiation story is all about. Rather than seeing negotiations as a competition where one side wins and the other loses, aim for a solution that benefits both parties. Emphasize collaboration. Seek areas of mutual benefit, such as shared goals for safety, operational efficiency, or cost savings. And there's a lot going on here. We actually provide as part of our leadership training, we do, one of our courses is negotiation. So we do spend the best part of a full day on negotiation. Data is a powerful advantage when you're negotiating a new contract, lease term, safety agreement. Data-backed arguments make positions more credible and persuasive. And it can include financial information, performance metrics, anything. The point is, when you are able to present in a clear, concise, and communicative way, then you have a stronger message. So if you're trying to buy something off me for 6, and I show you that actually 6 doesn't work and it's never going to work, and here is the math behind it, you're actually feeling a little bit not correct to say guilty, but you're empathizing with my situation, and you're realizing that your offer of 6 is not going to work. You might have to say, okay, we need to stop this negotiation because I need to take additional guidance from the leadership team. And you go back to the leadership team and say, look at this information, look at this data. If they let us have it at 6, they're not actually making profit. They don't make profit until they reach break even at 7 and then profit at somewhere over 7. So if we offer 7.2, 7.3, because of the size of the project, I think that they will accept it. So you see where I'm going with this. So you're being realistic and pragmatic and accepting that that situation requires clarification or support from the data. Successful negotiation, understand the importance of patience and waiting for the right moment. So you can't be in a rush. If you're in a rush, you're not going to get the best outcome. Timing can help you gain leverage and achieve better results. There was an interesting situation. I went on several presentations, seminars, workshops by leasing companies and insurance companies that insure aircraft. So I became quite knowledgeable with a background understanding related to leasing companies and the way the leasing process works. And I understood, for example, that at the end of a lease that has lasted for maybe 10 years, when you come to return the aeroplane, if you're returning a narrow-bodied aircraft like a A320 or 737, it's potentially going to cost you up to $2 million in unbudgeted penalty payment. And absolutely, that is the value. If it's a wide body, so if it's an Airbus A330 or a 777 or something like that, you're looking at a penalty of 3.5 million. And it was amazing for me as all this information was shared and understanding how operators can avoid paying this, how they can minimize, what steps they can take, and instead of paying 2 million, to pay 200,000 and save 1.8 million. Is it doable? It's absolutely totally doable. But simply what happens is the operators are too busy to pay attention to the opportunities. But think about it this way. How much money do you make when you carry a passenger? And it's not as much as you think. Sometimes the airlines say, well, actually, the money we make from the passengers is equivalent to the profit from the sale of duty free, for example. That would not be the case with Ryanair, EasyJet, Wizz Air, etc. But that's another story. So if you make $10 per passenger, you need 100,000 passengers flying on your aircraft, $10 to make 1 million. So when you don't pay attention to a lease return, you're basically going to fly 100,000 passengers for free. This, for me, is all part of the aviation story because having worked and trained with companies for decades, having known companies very, very well and seen companies go to the wall, many companies who were in business 15 years ago, not in business now, not paying attention to the fundamentals of management and leadership, including financial awareness. Because if you're going to return an aeroplane, just to stick with this one for a little tiny bit longer, if you're going to return an aeroplane, it starts 24 months out. That's when it starts. And you need to pay attention to things, for example, and if you're not technical, apologies for this one, but you need to pay attention to the EGT margin of the lease return, because it's a measurement of the health of the engine. Because if I return the engines and they don't tick the health box, I'm going to have 2.5 million US dollar work on each of the engines. So there's $5 million. But if I pay attention, I can make sure that the engines do not breach the lease return conditions. And I've seen it where savvy operators remove engines, put them in storage, and for several months they lease engines, because they've calculated fitting lease engines is going to mean we don't breach the lease return conditions on the engines that belong to the lease aircraft, and that will save us $5 million. So this type of behavior requires, let's say, a level of engagement that simply doesn't exist in so many companies. You'd think it would be automatic. I promise you it is not. It's out there, but it's in no way automatic. Very, very interesting stories. Okay. Behavioral theorists believe that people can become leaders through the process of teaching, learning, and observation. Leadership is a set of skills that can be learned by training, perception, practice, and experience over time. Leadership learning is a lifetime activity. The other thing you can say about this is you don't have to make every mistake yourself. You can learn from other people's mistakes. And there's a number of accident investigations which are really ideal to help you on that journey. Not all accident investigation movies will do it, but some of them will. And paying attention to some of them is going to, let's say, accelerate your understanding of the challenges. So one of them is reference to operations, and it's I think a Fokker, either F-28 or Fokker 100 aircraft taking off from Dryden Airport, Ontario, and that's enough to find it. Dryden, Ontario, Fokker accident, because through a series of events which really help you understand the management process, the aeroplane took off with so much snow on the wing that the aeroplane didn't really get airborne. It just barely climbed, I think, 30 to 50 feet, smashed down, and half the passengers were killed. They lost their life. Another one is Alaskan Airlines, which was an MD-80 aircraft, and the tail of the aeroplane, the horizontal stabilizer actuator, failed, and as a result, for a while there was inverted flight, but it plunged into the sea. It was Alaskan Airlines flight 261, and again, it's a very, very good accident investigation, because at a certain point, one of the maintenance engineers became a whistleblower because of the unsafe practices, and he told the FAA what was going on, and the FAA came and basically took all the information That guy who was the whistleblower was put on leave, and for 18 months he was paid his salary. That was before it happened. That wasn't after it happened. That was leading up to it, and he had actually noted the particular aeroplane that the actuator for the stabilizer needed to be changed 18 months before, and it was denied. And as a result, 88 people lost their life. Now, when you go into the workplace, there's a difference in opinion here, because when somebody said, I just checked, and in accordance with the maintenance manual requirements, it has to be changed, and you say, I'm the manager, we're not changing it, and then 18 months later, 88 people die, I would go back to that manager and said that I'm very sorry, but you are now guilty of not murder, because you didn't, it wasn't intentional that you were going to kill people, but you are culpably responsible for manslaughter. And so as a manager in that position at that time, making that decision, you are going to go to a court and you're going to be tried. And if you're found guilty, you will go to prison. And this is the environment that we are supposedly in. It doesn't always work that way. And the actions are complicated. And because what happens when we start investigating, we find other things. For example, the National Transportation Safety Board found that the FAA had not behaved in the correct way, and the whole thing explodes into a huge story. So it's not possible to just pick one person, but that's my thoughts. That's how important it is to do your job properly. Okay, just to finish off and say that we are currently offering 16 leadership management skills courses. I want to keep developing the program. I see it going up to around 25 separate courses, and I hope that you've enjoyed what you've done so far on the program. I hope you will continue to engage with our program. I hope you will continue to engage with Sofema throughout your career, and I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward for your feedback. We welcome feedback. Not just looking for positive feedback, we are looking for all feedback, because if we can make improvements, we're going to find the improvements from talking to you. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. Hello.